So importantly, welcome everyone. Welcome into this practice. So good to be with you as always. And we've had this lovely time over the last couple of months to explore ways to be able to meet stress in a healthy way. And the operative word here is to meet stress, because we're really giving ourselves an opportunity to directly engage with that experience. Because previously, when we've been less attentive to stress being present in our system, in our body, or in our mind state, that tendency might have been there to override the experience or to try to not give it the attention that it deserves. But now we're learning practices that allow us to creatively engage when it's felt here and now. And then we can have a more fruitful response so that we can change the experience, or we can go into an opportunity or a way of shifting the nervous system from that stress response and into one that is more rest and digest. And that's incredibly impactful. So today we'll be sharing a practice that allows us to befriend our breath again. And we've shared some practices, Mariah and I, of mindfulness of breath that have a really wonderful way of anchoring our attention in the present moment. And first, just honoring the fact that when we're breathing regularly, as we are right now, and bringing consciousness to that experience, that alone can be really transformative. Right? To know the body is breathing, and that our breathing is always here and now. So if we have a tendency to futurize, so meaning getting stuck into worrying about what may or may not happen in the future, or if we're ruminating about an event that was in our recent or more distant past, it draws us away from that and gathers us into this present moment, which that in itself can shift our nervous system into more of that parasympathetic state, that rest state. And then we've also engaged in practices that direct the breath in a specific way. So Mariah shared the biomechanics of breath and the stress response, and that when we can place our attention more into that out breath, how that can down-regulate the nervous system and really change our experience. So we're going to add to that a little bit more today in this breath practice, where we're going to bring our attention to a more controlled breath. And what I mean by that is we're going to really focus our attention to how the breath is moving in and out of the nostrils. And it's called alternate nostril breath. And essentially it does what it says on the tin. It's a little British expression, but what I like a lot. But essentially what it means is that we're going to be focusing the inhale through one side of the nose and then exhaling out through the opposite, and then in again through that side and out through the opposite. And I'll explain the mechanics of that a little bit more in a couple of moments. But this breath is interesting because it has quite a few benefits. One is that we're going to use our hand to seal off the sides of the nose. And by engaging in that little bit of doing and adding it to the being of being present with the breath, those two actions of attention and a little bit of movement draw us into the present moment. And if we're in a state that might feel restless or agitated, which we can feel when we're noticing stress in the body mind, it starts to bring us out of that and into a place of, relaxing into the experience of being able to be in that cadence of breathing and moving with the breath. And then, of course, there's that lovely anchor of attention to the present moment when we're able to focus and gather our attention to that act of being with breath. And then also it helps us cultivate the opportunity to have connection to that interoceptive experience. And interoception was something I shared a couple of weeks back, which is noticing the felt experience of being in our body right now. And one of those experiences, noticing breathing. And when we develop a deeper awareness of that interoceptive experience, it increases our resiliency. It also increases our ability to feel more emotionally regulated and then it relaxes the body a little bit. It allows us to really drop into here and now in a different kind of way. So they're all quite powerful. And how it's going to work is in this way. You'll take your hand, and I'm going to use my right hand because I'm a righty. You might want to use your left hand if that's your sort of tendency in terms of writing and doing things, because it'll feel a little bit more comfortable. And if you're using the right hand, you're going to place the the thumb over your right nostril and your index finger gently over the left. If you're using the left hand, it'll be the opposite. So thumb over the left and your index over the right. And I'll just show you first, and then we'll begin together. But you're going to start by sealing off the right side of the nose and inhaling only through the left, nice and slowly. And then at the very top of the inhalation, we're going to swap. So the index is going to gently press over the left side, and I'm going to exhale out through the right. And then I'm going to keep that right side open. So inhaling through the right. And then I'm going to seal off the right and exhale through the left. So basically at the top of each inhale, that's when we swap fingers. And I hope this makes a bit of sense. What I'll do is I'll guide you through the first few rounds. And then we'll have time and quiet where you can be with your breath and this process. And I want to do that because we all have a different natural cadence to our breath. So I don't want you to feel like you have to match your pace to mine, as it might not feel comfortable. And it's nice to be able to get into our own rhythm. And also, feel free if you want to extend the exhale a little bit longer, you're welcome to, because that is a lovely way to go into that rest response if you're feeling like that's really needed right now. So I hope this feels clear. And again, I'll guide you through the first couple of rounds. So gently take whatever hand that you would like to use and bring it up to the face, bringing perhaps the thumb over the right and the index finger over the left. And before you seal off the nostrils, I'd like you to just find a present quality to the spine. So perhaps lifting it a little bit more. And that way the breath just feels like it moves a little bit more clearly through the system. And then the sits bones can ground down here. You're welcome to close the eyes or keep the gaze soft. So that's inviting as well. Taking a few breaths here, knowing that the breath is drawing you into this moment. And then we're going to gently seal off the right side of the nose and slowly inhale in through the left side. At the top of the inhale, seal off the left and exhale through your right, nice and slow. Inhale through the right. At the top of the inhale, seal off the right and exhale out through the left. Inhale through the left. At the very top of the inhale, seal off the left, exhale through the right. Inhale through the right. Sealing off the right, exhale through the left. And now I'll allow you to continue this type of breathing on your own pace, with a gentle reminder to relax the jaw, even though we're breathing in through the nose, to mitigate any tension that might be felt in the face. Drawing our awareness to noticing the body breathing, feeling that gentle rhythm. And the slow movements of the fingers connecting to the sides of the nose, and noticing how it feels breathing in through one side and then the other. It can be interesting to note if one side feels a little bit more spacious than another, as that's just going to provide information as to what is felt here in our body, in the breath. Gently alternating the sides in which we're breathing. There's a little alert quality to the hand and the arm, and with the rest of the body, we look to relax here into the seat, keep the spine feeling long, the chest feeling a bit buoyant and spacious, so that we're also inviting in a relaxed response into the body, which helps meet stress in a healthy way. If at any point you start to feel a little bit dizzy, or if there's any discomfort for you, then feel free to release the hand, keeping the eyes closed or the gaze soft, and just come into a natural rhythm of breath that feels gentle and slow for you. So that's important to acknowledge if we are meeting that experience, that we can respond to that with care. Noticing if the mind's wandered off somewhere outside of this practice. Gently drawing it back in. We'll take about 1 more minute here. Alternating nostrils, allowing the breath to move in and out slowly. And perhaps even inviting in the phrase, breathing is here. So we're acknowledging what's here in the present moment. And then the next time that you exhale out through the left side, allow that to be the last, and gently release your hand down onto the lap. And take a few breaths here through both sides of the nose, seeing how you feel. And importantly, it allows us to not transition too quickly out of the practice, but to really stay connected to the experience here. And perhaps another 2 or 3 more breaths before you then invite the eyes to open or the gaze to lift. Taking back in your surroundings. I'd be interested to see if there is anything that you'd like to share, how the practice felt, might feel really differently moving in this way, breathing in this way. And it is interesting too, because sometimes we might notice that there's a side of the nose that's a little bit more congested than the other. So this can create sometimes a little bit more harmony, or if we are experiencing allergies or a little congestion, sometimes it can also help to clear that a bit. So this breath work can have that benefit as well. And I did want to make sure that I offered that opportunity to take a pause in it if you were feeling a little bit dizzy, or sometimes if we have low blood pressure, we can feel a little bit lightheaded in some forms of breath practice. So if that is the case, then it's good to take a pause and notice that. Okay. Lisa says, for a few seconds, I felt like I was breathing through my head instead of my nose. Ah, interesting. That's an interesting observation. And, when we do direct the breath in specific ways, it does lift energy in the physical body and also in terms of the felt experience of uplifting, right? It can draw the energy that maybe was feeling more grounded into the sit bones and the spine and lift it up, so we can notice a shift in where we're feeling it in the body, and that's interesting. So good observation. And Margaret, I enjoyed this. Actually, I've incorporated this breathing exercise in moments of stress, and it always helps calm me down. Thank you for sharing that. It is a really impactful way to manage stress because it does give us something to do with our attention and with part of our physical body. And if we tend to be someone who gets a little bit physically agitated, or we really notice a tightening in the body, by just having that little bit of movement in the hands can feel soothing. There's a rhythm to it. Just like when we go out for a walk, when we need to de-stress, or sometimes we go for a swim, we move a little bit, that embodied practice can create a relaxed feeling in the body. So that's an interesting response as well. Thank you for sharing that.
Janine, did you see Phyllis and Amanda also put something in the chat?
Let's see, let me scroll up. Whoop. There we go. Sorry, I missed that. Okay, Phyllis was a little tense when first trying, but eventually felt more relaxed. Very interesting, the difference in the nostrils, even though I'm not congested. Yes, that's an interesting observation. There's an event, it's called the nasal cycle, that we all have, in which we breathe through one side a little bit more, and about every 4 to 8 hours or so, it switches more to the opposite nostril. It's called the nasal cycle, and it's an autonomic response in the body. And scientists don't know exactly why it happens. There's a couple of theories. And one of the theories is that it actually has to do with smell, interestingly, that when we take in scent, some molecules that come in, the brain interprets them in a sort of faster way and others slow. So when we can combine the two different airflows through the two different sides of the nose, it allows us to process things differently. So that's one theory. The other theory too is that we have, small hairs that are in the nose, and that it acts as filtration and also as a humidifier when the air is moving into the system. So it has that physical quality as well. So it can be interesting to sort of become a little bit more aware too when we are breathing a little bit more through one side. It's a more sort of subtle aspect of our physical body to be in touch with a bit more. And then Margaret, I enjoyed this. Actually, I think I read that one. Yes. And it calms you down as well. Thank you. Yes, it is a very calming breath work. My husband practices pranayama every morning and swears by the benefit. It's interesting to try this intro. Thank you, Terry, for that. Did I miss any more? For some reason, I feel like I might be missing one.
Yeah, there is Amanda who says, yes, this was tough for me.
Okay.
Do you see it?
Yes, there we go. Okay. One of my nostrils was congested and it made me a bit more anxious initially to breathe through that side. Okay. That can bring that in because all of a sudden it might feel like the breath isn't flowing in a way, and then we can feel stuck. So that's when it's important to acknowledge that that's here, and then let go of the practice. And the practice then becomes being with the breath as it is, rather than having to focus it more directly from one side to the other. If it just feels a little bit too congested, then it's important to honor that and be with the breath in its entirety, meaning just noticing as it's here, moving in through both nostrils and then out. And having that awareness is important. That's the practice. So that's a wonderful observation as well. And then from Margaret here, today I started using my non-dominant hand and switched midway because it felt I was fighting the breathing. Interesting. It can be interesting to use the non-dominant hand too, because we can just try something different and perhaps move away from some patterning if we have patterning with how we use our hands. But it also could stir the pot a little bit in terms of maybe drawing us away from the practice and feeling a little bit of perhaps discomfort in that it doesn't feel comfortable, right? We're doing something different. And then that's good that attention is brought to that experience. And then we can respond in kind. We can be curious, right? That was the response. And then make a little subtle adjustment so then it feels more comforting to our experience. So I think that's interesting that you wanted to try that. And then move in a way that felt more comfortable for you. And these are all really wonderful observations. So thank you so much for bringing that in here to this practice. Now, can you do this lying down? Will this help with sleep? I mean, for me personally, I do this practice in seated form because it allows me to bring more of an alert quality to the attention, to sit upright, and it feels a little bit more soothing and easier to do with a hand in terms of being upright. It's something that you could try lying down and see what the experience is like for yourself. And if that's comfortable for the arms and where you are, I just find personally, for me, it's comfortable being here. And it keeps me very engaged with the practice, but that could be something to explore and see how that feels for you. Some of these breath practices are nice to try on the spine if we are feeling a little bit more tired and we need some more support. So that could be that maybe we're leaning our spine against the wall or leaning back into the chair, or you could try that on the spine and see how that feels.
Janine, may I add something to that?
Absolutely.
Just as another layer of understanding the benefits of this breath is that on an energetic level, we have two sides of the body. There is the masculine and the feminine side, as they suggest in the ancient yoga traditions. And the left side is considered the feminine side, the right side, the masculine side. And the feminine side is associated with calming and soothing. And the right side is associated with fire and more energy. So when we're breathing through the nostrils, like Janine just taught us so wonderfully, we're balancing those two sides, the calming side and the energizing side. However, because we're putting an emphasis on inhaling on the left side, it's the calming side, because that's where we start and end. Generally, this practice specifically is suggested to be very calming. And so, like Janine said, it offers reset for the nervous system, but it also has an effect overall on our level of energy. So I personally love this practice before I go to bed, because it helps to stimulate that more calming energy. And so, like Janine said, I too prefer to do it seated, and I would just experiment how it feels to do it lying down, because indeed it can very well help with a better night's sleep. So I just wanted to.
Yeah, thank you for that share. That was wonderful to point out that, we have what's called two hemispheres, and energetically they have different experiences, resonances in the body, and that also we can harmonize them through the breath. So there's a lot of really interesting effects that it has in the body, and it's a soothing practice to do any time of day, as Mariah pointed out, wonderful one at night to calm down, especially if we've had a very, very busy day and we are very much in our headspace. And it gives an opportunity to drop into the body and prepare the body to sleep. Or if we're just feeling like we need that pause to recalibrate, it's wonderful to do at any point in the day. But, you know, as we both mentioned, everyone is different, and what we're experiencing in the day can change. So why not have time to experiment and see what feels right for you? Let me see the time here. Just mindful that we're approaching towards the end of the half hour, or actually time that we have together. So if there's anything else that you'd like to bring into the space, we're here. Otherwise, feel free at any point to reach out via email. There'll be an email going out tomorrow with a supportive practice that is very much related to what we did today. And otherwise, we look forward to seeing you next week at this time. Thank you. Thank you for your time. It's always appreciated.